Texas tells you about the Alamo. Texas tells you about oil rigs and cattle and Friday night football. Texas tells you a state so big and so loud it could not possibly have anything left to hide. It is hiding everything. There is a place in West Texas where one of the most powerful men in America walked in for dinner and never walked out. The guest list has never been published. There is a building in the Panhandle where, on a March afternoon in 2005, a single mistake almost ended a Texas city. The men who know what happened are not allowed to talk about it. These are 10 forbidden places in Texas almost nobody knows about. Subscribe if you are tired of tourism videos where everything is perfect. Here we show Texas the way it actually is. Let's get into it. Number 10. Camp Stanley storage activity born. About 20 miles northwest of San Antonio sits a U.S. Army weapons storage facility with 630,000 square feet of ordnance under one roof. It is called Camp Stanley Storage Activity. There is a phone number on the official Army website. There is almost no other information that the public can verify. The security clearance required to work at Camp Stanley is more restrictive than at almost any other military installation in the United States. The facility is government-owned and government-operated, which is unusual in itself. Most weapons storage in this country is run by contractors. Camp Stanley is not. In 2014, a retired CIA analyst named Alan Thompson published a report through the Federation of American Scientists, pointing to a single conclusion. Camp Stanley, the report argued, is the long-rumored Midwest Depot, the covert CIA arms warehouse that supplied untraceable weapons to operations the United States government did not formally authorize. Bay of Pigs, Angola, Nicaragua, Afghanistan, Iran-Contra, Thompson based the connection on an Army purchase order for 2 million rounds of AK-47 ammunition delivered to Camp Stanley. The U.S. military does not field the AK-47. A declassified 1986 memo from Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North traced 1,000 TOW missiles through Midwest Depot to Kelly Air Force Base in San Antonio, then to Germany, Israel, and ultimately Iran. Charlie Savage of the New York Times reported on the connection. The CIA did not confirm or deny it. Camp Stanley is still there. It does not give tours. Number 9. The Devil's Sinkhole, Rock Springs. 8 miles northeast of Rock Springs in the Texas Hill Country, the ground opens into a vertical shaft about 50 feet across that drops 350 feet straight down. From the rim, you cannot see the bottom. There is a steel grate now, because before there was a steel grate, 3 people fell in and died. The first around 1900 and the most recent in 1972. The sinkhole was used by native peoples long before any Europeans saw it. Many tribes considered it sacred, a portal between the spirit world and this one. Several million Mexican free-tailed bats live inside. From May through October, they emerge at dusk in a column that takes hours to fully exit. The sound from the rim is a low, continuous roar that you feel in your chest before you hear it with your ears. The state finally opened the site to limited public access in 1992. You never enter the sinkhole, you stand at the rim. For thousands of years, this hole in the ground was significant enough that people brought offerings here, and nobody alive today can fully tell you why. Number 8. Cibolo Creek Ranch, Shafter. A luxury resort sits on 30,000 acres at the foot of the Chinati Mountains in far west Texas, about 15 miles from the Mexican border. 3 restored adobe forts, a private airstrip. The guest list is not published. On the night of February 12, 2016, Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia ate dinner at Cibolo Creek Ranch. He was 79. He retired to his room and was found dead the following morning. The official cause was listed as natural causes. No autopsy was performed. What emerged in the days afterward, reported by the Washington Post, was that the ranch's owner, John Poindexter, was a leadership member of an organization called the International Order of St. Hubertus. Founded in 1695 in the Kingdom of Bohemia, the order is an all-male European hunting society. Members wear robes. They have ceremonial titles. The lawyer who flew Scalia to the property by private plane was also a leadership member. Multiple guests at the dinner the night Scalia died have never been publicly identified. The order describes itself as a charitable hunting fraternity. The ranch describes itself as a private resort. Both descriptions are accurate. Neither is the entire record. If you are still with me, hit the subscribe button. We are halfway through, and what comes next is where this list stops being history and starts being current. Number 7. Alibates Flint Quarries, Fritch. Welcome to the only national monument in Texas, and one of the least visited significant archaeological sites in America. Alibates Flint Quarries sits on a mesa above the Canadian River in the Texas Panhandle, north of Amarillo. It contains more than 700 quarry pits where prehistoric people harvested a multicolored stone called Alibates flint for 13,000 consecutive years. That makes it one of the longest continuously used quarries anywhere in North America. Its colors range from pale gray and white to pink, maroon, red, orange, gold, and an intense purple-blue. You expect brown rock and find a rainbow. Spear points made from this stone have been recovered embedded in the bones of Columbian mammoths killed at the end of the last ice age. Someone stood on this mesa 13,000 years ago, napped a spear point from multicolored rock, walked to where a mammoth was, and killed it with that point and a wooden shaft. The monument gets approximately 5,000 visitors per year. Palo Duro Canyon, 60 miles away, gets over 400,000. The quarry that armed half of North America for 13,000 years is less popular than a canyon with a gift shop. Number 6. Camp Bullis Military Reservation, San Antonio Drive, northwest on Interstate 10 out of San Antonio, and eventually you reach a fence line. On the other side is nearly 28,000 acres of active Army training reservation. It is called Camp Bullis. The official base materials describe it as a maneuver training installation. They also acknowledge that the property contains unexploded ordnance from more than 100 years of use. The base has been in continuous live fire use since 1917. Mortars, artillery, grenade launchers, demolition charges, an installation that has hosted the United States military for over a century has, by definition, accumulated a great deal of ordnance that did not detonate when it was supposed to. The Army does not publish a map of where the unexploded ordnance is suspected to be. The official Joint Base San Antonio hunting program includes a warning that any unfamiliar metal object should be considered extremely dangerous and under no circumstances handled, moved, or disturbed. The base sits adjacent to one of the fastest-growing parts of San Antonio. Subdivisions, schools, and shopping centers now press against the fence line, where, on the other side, century-old mortar shells remain in soil that the Army cannot fully decontaminate. Most people who live within 5 miles of Camp Bullis have no clear sense of what is on the other side of the wire. Number 5. Waco Tanks, El Paso. About 30 miles northeast of El Paso, 3 massive rock formations rise abruptly from the floor of the Chihuahuan Desert. They contain natural basins called huecos, the Spanish word for hollows, that collect rainwater in a landscape where water otherwise does not exist. For 10,000 years, every group that passed through this area stopped, drank, and left something behind on the walls. The result is more than 3,000 pictographs and petroglyphs layered on top of each other. Waco Tanks contains the largest known collection of Pueblo-style mask pictographs in North America, over 200 of them, painted by people of the Jornada Mogollon culture between 700 and 1,700 years ago. There are also Apache figures, Kiowa figures, Comanche figures, and human figures wearing European clothing. This is not one culture's gallery, it is everyone's, and the state will not let you wander through it. After decades of vandalism caused permanent damage to images that had survived for thousands of years, Texas Parks and Wildlife implemented one of the most restrictive access policies of any state park in the country. The self-guided area is capped at 70 visitors per day. The rest of the park is closed without a guide, an advance reservation, and a mandatory orientation video. Waco Tanks is also one of the best bouldering destinations in the world. Climbers fly in from Europe and Asia for the Waco Rock Rodeo every February. Most of them have no idea what they are climbing on. Number 4. The Pantex Plant, Amarillo. About 17 miles northeast of Amarillo, on a 16,000-acre site on the high plains of the Texas Panhandle, sits the only nuclear weapons assembly and disassembly facility in the United States. It is called the Pantex Plant. The airspace directly above it is prohibited Area P-47. Civil aircraft are not legally permitted to enter it. Every nuclear warhead retired from the United States stockpile is taken apart at Pantex. The plutonium pits and the fissile cores recovered from those dismantled weapons number in the thousands. No permanent national repository has ever been completed. The pits remain at Pantex indefinitely. In March of 2005, workers at Pantex were dismantling an obsolete W-56 thermonuclear warhead, a weapon roughly 100 times the explosive yield of the Hiroshima bomb. A non-profit watchdog group, the Project on Government Oversight, later reported that the technicians had used a faulty tool and applied excessive pressure to the warhead, and that the incident could have resulted in a detonation of the weapon's high explosives. The Department of Energy fined the contractor $110,000. In late February of 2024, the Smokehouse Creek Fire, the largest wildfire in Texas history, forced Pantex to evacuate non-essential personnel. Earlier the same month, a separate disassembly incident had required staff to seal a nuclear explosive inside an enhanced transportation cart while a new safety procedure was written because the existing one was no longer considered safe. Fire and an unresolved nuclear safety incident in the same month, on 16,000 acres, 17 miles from a city of 200,000 people. Number 3. The Big Thicket Industrial Timberlands, Woodville. In deep East Texas, between the Big Thicket National Preserve and the Louisiana state line, hundreds of thousands of acres of land are held in private industrial timber tracts. They are owned by major paper and lumber corporations. They are locked behind gates. They do not appear on most tourist maps of East Texas because there is nothing on them that tourists are permitted to see. Inside that timberland are some of the last carnivorous pitcher plant bogs left in the southern United States. Stands of longleaf pine that predate European settlement. Beech magnolia forest of a type that no longer exists anywhere else in Texas. Wetland systems that took 10,000 years to develop, and that, once cut, will not return in any human timeframe. The Big Thicket National Preserve protects approximately 113,000 acres of this ecosystem. The surrounding private timberland holdings, where most of the original Big Thicket actually was, dwarf the preserve. What gets cut behind those gates is no one's business except the corporations that own the land. A bog with a 4,000-year-old peat layer cannot be reconstituted. A grove of 200-year-old longleaf pines cannot be replanted in any meaningful sense. The gates remain locked. Number 2. Sacred Heart Burial Park, Falfurrias. About 70 miles north of the Mexican border, in the brush country of South Texas, there is a small cemetery on the edge of the town of Falfurrias. It is called Sacred Heart Burial Park. Most people in Texas have never heard of it. In May of 2013, forensic anthropologists Lori Baker from Baylor University and Krista Latham from the University of Indianapolis arrived at the cemetery with a team of students. They had come to exhume the unmarked graves of migrants who had died crossing the surrounding ranch land and had been buried by the county over the previous decade. What they found broke established law and basic dignity in equal measure. The team recovered 110 sets of human remains from the cemetery in 2013. They returned the following summer and exhumed 52 more graves, which actually contained more than 52 people because some grave sites held multiple bodies. Remains had been buried in trash bags, in shopping bags, in some cases there's no container at all. In one burial, the bones of 3 people were inside a single body bag. In another, the remains of at least 5 people had been stacked together. Skulls had been placed in biohazard bags wedged between coffins. There were no DNA samples on file. There were no records of who had been buried where. The Texas Rangers investigated. No criminal charges were filed because the funeral home was found not to have violated state law as written. Brooks County is the deadliest county in the United States for migrants. A 1994 federal checkpoint on Highway 281 forced anyone trying to reach the interior on foot to detour for 2 or 3 days through private ranch land to bypass it. The heat does the rest. From 2009 to 2026, the Brooks County Sheriff's Office has recovered approximately 1,000 sets of human remains from the brush country. The sheriff has stated that only about 1 in 5 of those who die ever get found. The cemetery is still there. The names are still missing. Number 1. Waste Control Specialists, Andrews. About 32 miles west of the town of Andrews on the Texas-New Mexico border sits a 14,000-acre site operated by Waste Control Specialists. The facility is the only commercial site in the United States licensed to dispose of all 3 classes of low-level radioactive waste. The New York Times once called it America's most valuable hole in the ground. The licensing fight that produced this site is the part almost nobody outside West Texas remembers. In 2007, 3 staff members at the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality resigned in protest after the agency's executive director, Glenn Schenkel, overruled their team's recommendation against issuing the license. The technical staff had raised serious concerns about the site's proximity to groundwater. In January of 2009, less than a year after the license was issued, Schenkel left state government to work as a paid lobbyist for waste control specialists. Plutonium is being buried at the site. Uranium is being buried at the site. Reactor containment vessels. Decommissioned components from nuclear power plants and weapons facilities from across the country. The license permits the disposal of materials that will remain dangerously radioactive for periods measured in hundreds of thousands of years. On June 18, 2025, the United States Supreme Court, by a 6-3 decision, ruled that Texas did not have legal standing to challenge a separate federal license, granted to a company called Interim Storage Partners, that would allow high-level nuclear waste, the spent fuel rods from civilian nuclear reactors, to be stored on the same Andrews County land. Governor Greg Abbott had signed a 2022 state law expressly prohibiting it. The court ruled that Texas had forfeited its right to sue. The shipments may begin regardless. The plutonium is already in the ground. The Supreme Court has ruled. And the most important thing about the most valuable hole in Texas is that almost nobody outside the immediate area has any idea it exists. These are the places Texas does not put on the brochure. Drop a comment with which one disturbed you most, and stay subscribed for the next.